me to do this talk. Continue. Okay. If those who are in, thank you for joining. If you don't mind, if you can switch on your video so I can see you. I'll be asking you questions, and I want to see if you understand them. So if possible, do put your videos on. If you don't wish to, it doesn't matter.
Also, Sailesh, can I just also let everybody know that if they have a question, I'm going to try something different this time round compared to previous occasions. So if somebody has a question, rather than putting it on chat, and they're still it's still quite okay to put it on chat. But if you want to ask the question yourself, go to the options, go to reactions, and then within that you can raise your hand, and I will ask you to unmute at that point in time, and you can ask the question yourself to Sailesh. So that's something I want to try it out this time round. Thank you, Sailesh. Over to you.
Okay. So today's talk, as Umesh said, is about healthy heart. All health matters are really down to healthy living, hence the subtitle of healthy living. Okay, so the first question we need to ask ourselves is, what's important to us in every aspect of our life? What's really key for us? And so just take a few seconds to think about the things that are important to you, and just make a note of those. And whilst you're doing that, when we discuss heart health, when you look at other conditions, whether it's obesity, whether you're overweight, or whether you have diabetes, all of these conditions are interlinked. It's called metabolic syndrome, and one can lead to another. So in a sense, the most important thing that I'd like to get out of today is things that we need to do to manage our lifestyle. That includes a nutritious diet, the right amount of food, and also the right level of exercise, or at least a minimum level of exercise. So I'm hoping you've made some notes of things that are important to you. Now, depending on your age, whether you're retired, whether you're working, you will come up with different things. One, for those who are working, you're looking for a great job, one that's motivating you, one that will extend you. You're looking for a quality of life, a life that is healthy, keeping fit. You're looking for friendship, friends, family, and so forth. You're looking for a life where it's enjoyable, where you have fun. You've got the right balance between work and life. One of the key stressors right now in every part of the earth, every part of the world, is people do not have the right level of work-life balance, which actually leads to stress. A good amount of stress is good for you. It motivates you to work harder, but too much stress could cause health issues. So it is important for us to manage that stress. And the key thing we're looking for, and a key message from me, is I wouldn't rely on the NHS for the long term. Rely on yourself to have a healthy, fit life, managing your health through fitness, through well-being. So how do we get there? Can you all see the heading, or is that cursor in the way? I'm assuming you can. So the first point I made up previously is the right work-life balance. A supportive environment. If you're at work, teamwork, reach out and help each other. If you're retired, working with other friends, colleagues, so you can actually create a culture of supporting each other, one of friendship. Again, if you're in the work environment, there is always a lot of work to do. Everybody has a lot to do. The key for us is to prioritize the work, prioritize what our end goal is, what the benefits would be, and focus on the things that matter. We can't do everything, so it's important that we don't focus and do too much and not succeed in many of those. It's better to succeed in a few that matter. Look smart, feel good. That's very important, just not for yourself, but you're creating a good impression with your bosses, with your colleagues, with your friends. This includes not just clothing, shaving, regular showers, and so forth. Keeping active. Now, the recommendation for keeping active is a 30-minute cardio session. Cardio basically means walking. It doesn't mean a stroll in the park. It means a good pace of walking, around 4 miles an hour. So you do actually begin to get a little breathless. You can also feel your pulse working. Another one important, especially as we get older, is 2 sessions of training with weights. It's called weight-bearing exercise or strength training. That will keep our muscles and our bones strong. So as we get older, our hips, our joints will remain in good condition. We need some luck on the way to succeed. Meeting new people all the time, learning from others, networking with others, and obviously eating the right type of food. So how much exercise should we do? The recommendation is 210 minutes a week. That is 30 minutes minimum, ideally an hour, but 30 minutes minimum a day. That's for 7 days a week. And then 2 30-minute sessions of weight training, even if it's lightweight. If you don't have weights, you can use bottles of water, you can use baked bean tins, that sort of thing. Use tins. One of the things that happens to us as a natural progress of growth is after the age of 25, we stop growing. We don't grow tall, we generally end up growing fat. Now, the weight-bearing exercises, the other exercises will help you manage your weight and therefore manage your well-being. Combined with that, a good percentage of your exercise and weight management will come from just movement, good nutrition. Here are just some examples of things we can do. And an example of an issue that we have once we are past 50 or 60 is osteoporosis. Now, some of the causes of osteoporosis, if I ignore genetic causes, is poor nutrition. And an example of that is insufficient calcium and vitamin D. And that would begin to decay and weaken our bones, and they would become thin. And that would result in increased risk of fracture. Typically, hip fracture is quite common. Now, do we all know where our heart is? Is it on the right or the left? So let me give you 2 or 3 key facts about our heart. It's just the size of our fist. That's how big that heart is. And if you imagine that heart is pumping over 100,000 times a day. That's 42 million times a year. And if we survive until the age of 75, then our heart will be pumping 3 trillion times. So it's a workhorse. It really, really works hard. What you see here are the muscles in red outside, and then you see the veins outside. That's where your blood is flowing through. Heart itself is a muscle, and the blood travels around our body around 12,000 miles a day. So between London to Tokyo and back. So it's actually what keeps us alive. If your heart stops beating, you're basically dead. So that's why heart health is important, as are all other health matters. Now, what does the heart do? It pumps oxygenated blood. You could call it red blood, but it's got oxygen in it. That oxygen, the blood travels around the body. It delivers oxygen and nutrients that come from the food we eat, and it carries that into the rest of our body. That's the red part. On the blue part, I'll show you a picture that describes this in a bit more detail. The blue part is where waste products, carbon dioxide, is circulated back into the heart, and as it comes back into the heart, it goes to our lungs, and that lung would oxygenate the blood and come back into the heart to be pumped out of the body. Umesh is recording this. There's some really good links to YouTube and British Heart Foundation, BHF, that show you the heart pumping away. It's just an amazing device, just like the rest of our body, the brain and so forth. So very quickly, number one, blue blood comes in. It's really not blue, it's just deoxygenated. It comes through the ventricles, the atrium, down the bottom. It goes into the lungs, number 5. The lungs would then oxygenate that on the right-hand side of the lungs. It would come back into the heart, into the top chamber, bottom chamber, and out of the aorta to the rest of our body. So that's a very, very brief overview of how the heart works. Okay, just to give you an idea of how many people die in a year in the UK. These are just UK figures. 163,000 people die of cancer. Because of COVID, this figure has gone up slightly. CVD, 158,000. Stroke, 38,000. Now, stroke is very closely linked to CVD stands for cardiovascular diseases. Some people use CHD, coronary heart disease, same thing. Stroke, lung, I'll talk about some of these shortly, and liver. So these are the big 5 causes of death in the UK. Now, CVD, heart-related issues are considered to be the highest death toll, although cancer is shown as number 1. Heart and lung issues are to do with the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th here. 158,000, 38,000, 114,000. Look after your heart, then the risk of stroke, risk of lung disease, and cardiorespiratory diseases, cardiovascular diseases reduces. There's 152,000 strokes a year. 8 of them are fatal within 30 days. I will tell you what to do if you have a stroke in a few seconds. Just some examples of statistics. 435 people will die today because of a heart attack. More than 100 of these will be under 75. 12 babies on an almost daily basis are born with a heart defect. 515 will go into hospital today as a result of a heart attack. 190 will die due to a heart attack. And 7 million people in the UK suffer from some form of CVD, cardiovascular or cardio heart diseases. Let's look at the top 5 deaths, the causes, and what we can do to prevent them. These are just pictures. This is the brain, this is your heart, that's the brain, and that's a clot in the brain. Cancer, all sorts of cancers are included in here. 357,000 cases in a year, 163,000 deaths. The main causes are smoking, body weight, which comes to obesity. Obesity leads to diabetes. Sunbed, although a lot of people don't use sunbeds now, it's still popular in some communities. Infections, radiation, lack of exercise, and unhealthy lifestyle. So the things we can do to prevent cancer is stop smoking, have a proper diet, balanced diet, do good level of exercise, and avoid processed foods. 170,000, this is coronary heart diseases, 170,000 deaths a year. So one person dies of a coronary heart disease every 3 to 4 minutes, and 7.4 million people suffer. The main cause of heart issues is weight, obesity, when you're big and fat, to put it bluntly, and smoking. So things we can do to control our heart disease is stop smoking, manage your diet, increase your exercise levels on a regular basis. So if you do no exercise at all today, even if you do 5 minutes a day to start with, and then perhaps in week 2 or even month 2, build it up to 10, and over a year, build it up to 30, and perhaps over 2 years, build it up to 60. The key thing about exercise is it's just not exercise in a gym. It doesn't need to be the gym. It's about moving all the time. Keep moving, and that is what will help you stay fit. Up and down the stairs, walking to the papers, walking to the shops. Keep moving. The other things are salt, sugar, and alcohol. Respiratory and lung diseases, typically asthma and COPD, 114,000 deaths a year. The key cause of this is really smoking, unless you work in a chemical pollutants environment. What can we do to prevent lung diseases? Stop smoking, diet, exercise, and those who do practice yoga, keep doing your pranayama, anulom vilom and things, and that will really make a big difference to our lung capacity. Stroke. Stroke is effectively a clot in the brain, in the arteries in the brain, which is what we see on the top picture. That would cause a brain to have a heart attack. A stroke is effectively a brain heart attack. 152,000 people suffer from a stroke each year. 1.2 million survive in total. Now, the reason why the survival rate has really shot up in the last few decades is if a person has a stroke, if you notice somebody's had a stroke, if you take very fast action, immediate action, by calling the ambulance, they are taken to a stroke specialist unit. There's around 8 around London, and they can help you recover very quickly. So it is really worth understanding the signs of stroke, which I'll go through, and heart attack for that matter, which I'll go through, and the chances of survival are better than they've ever been in the last few decades. Main causes are smoking, drinking, and high-fat foods. High-fat foods lead to obesity, which leads to heart issues, cardio-heart diseases, which can lead to a stroke. Things to stop that can prevent stroke: no smoking, good diet, no drinking, and good exercise. Liver diseases, the main cause of liver diseases is alcohol and drugs and fatty foods. Again, you can see very similar. The story for all of these can be summarized as: avoid smoking or minimize smoking if you must smoke, minimize alcohol to government limits or even below government limits, ideally stop alcohol. Obesity, manage your obesity through diet and physical exercise. So those are the key messages in green to help you manage all the top 5 killers. So these are some of the risk factors. I've covered most of them. For high blood pressure, if you exercise, cardio exercise is the best for managing your heart. Get your heart rate beating. Ideally, it should beat at 50% above your normal heart rate. So if your normal heart rate is 70, then when you're exercising at peak, you could easily be at 100, 105, 110. Then you know your heart is working, and that will keep your heart in good shape, and it will keep pumping away. Salt, alcohol. If you've got a family history of high blood pressure, it's important to know that, and it's important to monitor that. Smoking, including passive smoking, is important to manage. I'll unmute. Sorry, I was accidentally muted. Carbon monoxide reduces oxygen too in our blood. So oxygen is reduced, and therefore we are getting less oxygenation into the bloodstream, into our muscles. Diet and weight, we really need to manage our weight to within what the targets are. I'll show you what the targets are for your height and weight shortly. The thing called body mass index, again, I'll explain what that is. And physical inactivity is a big cause of heart diseases. Overweight, lack of exercises can lead to diabetes. And here it's important to manage our blood sugar levels. Most people who have diabetes, if it's type 2, they're on medication and they should manage that medication. It is possible to reduce the medication through good diet and exercise. High cholesterol, largely caused by fatty foods, smoking and alcohol. So these are all the risk factors. Stress leads to risky behavior. Risky behavior could include drinking and smoking, and that would lead to diseases, other illnesses. Heart attack is one of them. Too much drinking can increase your blood pressure, which increases the risk of stroke, and it could also cause liver issues, liver diseases. In the South Asian community, it's very important for us to manage both heart issues and diabetic issues, because we are more prone to that. And I'll show you some measurements that we need to be aware of for South Asians. Again, the key message of the risk factors: smoking, alcohol, drugs, diet, and exercise. That's just a summary of what I've gone through. I just want to show you some pictures of what the various things like smoking do to you. This is a liver. Top one, bottom one. That's what alcohol has done. This is what smoking does. That's a good lung. That's a smoke-filled lung. It is literally tar. If you smoke for 1 year, 1 packet a day, you can fill a 2-liter jar of tar. That is how much tar you would accumulate 1 year's worth of smoking. That reduces the amount of oxygenated blood that goes around your body, and therefore you would begin to weaken your heart and lungs. This just shows you what happens when we have fatty food. That's a normal artery. I'll show you a simplified picture of this shortly. It's nice and clean, blood is flowing, blood pressure is normal. This is where plaque is building up due to fatty foods. As that plaque builds up, the artery where the blood is flowing through narrows, as you'll see in this picture. As it narrows, it's much harder for our blood to get pumped through, and therefore our blood pressure goes up. And this is how they measure cholesterol. They're measuring how clogged up your arteries are. Mesh, just for your interest, for some reason I keep getting muted. I have unmuted myself. Okay, this is a very important picture. Some of us eat a lot of fatty food, but we don't put on weight. We remain the same size. Now, these two people are exactly the same size. If you look at their waist and so forth, they look the same. But this person on the left is actually eating a lot of fatty food. So what you see here, all the white bits, are fat that is developing inside this person. It's all over, in the legs, in the lungs, inside the body. This is a lean person, very much less fat. And you can measure, empirically, you can measure how much fat a person has, or you can hold electrodes in your hand, and there are tools that will give you a measure of how much fat you have in your body. Now, for these two people who look identical, this person has nearly 6 liters of fat inside them. Same body size. This person has just 1.65 liters. Typically, a guy who goes to the gym, does a lot of weights, does a bit of running, and is generally got a very healthy diet. This just gives you an example of where fat can build. And you heard about childhood obesity. A lot of young people are eating a lot of fatty food these days. You only have to go to the high street after school finishes, and all the fish and chip shops, the chicken shops, will have queues of young people. What are they doing? They're eating junk food, fatty food. Fat will accumulate in your brain, heart, limbs, liver, pancreas, your blood system, intestines, and kidneys. All of these are a huge, huge risk of heart diseases, diabetes, obesity. Now, the first measure you can use to check whether you're underweight or overweight or normal is just measure your waist. It's a crude measure, but it's a good indicative measure. First column is the health risk, and if you're in that region, so men at 34 inches, women at 31.5 inches, that's a healthy risk. That's a health risk. But you become very high risk if men are over 40 inches of waist. South Asian men, as you can see, are 35.5. Because the Asian community, our community, is at higher risk, British Heart Foundation recommend that our waist should be no more than 35.5. Women, 34.5, but again, South Asian women, no more than 31.5. That's a high risk. The next measure is the BMI. BMI is waist, kilograms, for example, over meter squared. And so if, for example, you're 5'6" and you weigh 80 kg, you would look down here and you do an intersection, and that shows that your weight is 85 kg, and it shows a BMI of 32.5. That is obese. That's very high risk. And the purple, you'll see it says, light purple, it says is obese. Okay, so that's another measure. You can do this very easily at home, bathroom scale and a tape measure, and you can determine your BMI. It's an indicator, it's not a very accurate indicator, but it gives you a view of where you are. Okay, let's look at the causes of plaque buildup. I think you probably all know the answers. Fat is the single biggest one. Salt, sugar, and alcohol. Those 4 things are what will clog up our arteries. Okay, so what are the top tips? You can see all the bad things on your right-hand side, junk food and so forth. So healthy living. I'm going to cover these in a bit more detail. Stay healthy, stay active, manage your stress, manage your work-life balance, and some tips on fatty food, sugar, and alcohol, salt and alcohol. So here's a bit more detail. A healthy weight. So know your body's measurement, know your waist. And so once you know your waist, normally you can tell your waist just by the trousers or the skirts you wear. If you go fat, you know it will feel tight. Here's the exercise level. 210 minutes per week. Of that, 150 minutes is cardio. Walking, running, treadmill, cross trainer, whatever you fancy, as long as you get that heart beating. Get good level of sleep. Sleep is important to manage your health. Reduce the amount of fat, salt, and sugar you take. Take 5 portions of fruit and veg. Drink 2 to 3 glasses of warm water first thing in the morning. It really helps clean your system. Drink 6 to 8 glasses of water throughout the day. Now, this is for omega-3 fish, but so for vegetarians, we need to find other sources of omega-3. We can get that in fruit and fiber. Eat fiber-rich food and wholesome foods. By wholesome, we mean fresh fruits, fresh foods, rather than processed foods. Use the spices. They're good for you. They'll keep you warm inside. And there are medicinal benefits to all of our spices that we use in our cooking. That's the first 5 tips. These are the next 5. They're all very obvious. Smoking, drugs and drink, processed foods, stimulants like fizzy drinks. I'll show you the impact of fizzy drinks on the next slide. Avoid cooked foods in plastic containers. Better work-life balance to manage your stress. Once you're 40, you get a health check from the NHS. Every 5 years, please take the opportunity to do it. Here are some things that you can do to keep active. For those who don't exercise, start small and just work yourself up to a routine. Be realistic with what you want to achieve. It's called SMART in business speak. They're specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-based. But just realistic goals. Make exercise part of your day. Walking, swimming, going up and down the stairs, escalators. Find yourself a group to work with. It's much easier to work with friends and family than on your own. Do a variety of exercises, and there's a little list there: dancing, swimming, yoga. Set reminders where you can see them. Keep an eye on your progress and do a regular health check. And when you succeed, reward yourself. It's the only time you can have a piece of cake. As an example, a very small piece and sugar-free. As an example, you have a Coca-Cola from McDonald's. It's got 11 teaspoons of sugar. This is a large Pepsi, 16 spoonfuls of sugar. If you can help it, avoid sugar altogether. Avoid fizzy drinks altogether. Even the diet ones, just avoid fizzy drinks. Now, not so long ago, they were promoting Sunny Delight orange juice on the TV for children. 7 teaspoons of sugar. Just a crazy amount of sugar in all fizzy drinks. With most juices, please read the labels. There's also a lot of fizzy drinks in there. A very good example is Yole Valley Farm yogurt is sold as 0% fat. Is it really 0% fat? But look at the sugar content. It's got 5 teaspoons of sugar in it. So it may have no fat, because people buy 0 fat, but look at the sugar content. So look at fat and sugar together. So I won't go into the detail of the next few slides, but this is what Coke does to your body. In the first 10 minutes, when you've drunk your tin of Coke, you've had 10 teaspoons of sugar. That's 100, that is what the maximum you can have according to the NHS standards. Within 20 minutes, you get a sugar spike. So your body responds with insulin to try and manage your sugar levels. Within 40 minutes, the absorption is finished. Your pupils may dilate. Your blood pressure will rise. Liver dumps a lot of sugar into your bloodstream. That's what makes you go fat. And after 40 minutes, your body increases dopamine production, which stimulated the pleasure of centers. And then within an hour, you're craving for another tin. Exactly the same with smoking. It's why Coke is bad for you. This is why salt is bad for you. It increases blood pressure, puts additional strain on our kidneys, our brain, and arteries. I'm not just going into all of them, it'll just take too long. And I'm at the 35-minute point. A lot of fatty food. Thankfully, a lot of our food, if you ignore mithai and nasto, is not that fatty. If you're having a good Gujarati diet, then you're probably having a well-balanced meal. But here's a fact. If you have 1 packet of crisps per day, anybody care to guess how much cooking oil that is? Just for your interest, it's 9 liters of cooking oil. So having 1 packet of crisps per day is equivalent to 9 liters of cooking oil. That's like a big drum. That's what you're actually drinking. You're also taking a lot of carbs in the potato. Those carbs will convert into sugar. That will convert into fat. Alcohol, direct impact on your liver. It could cause breast cancer, oral cancers, heart diseases, and strokes. Look at beer. It can have 15 grams of sugar. It can also damage our memory, our mental health. This is the recommended maximum by the NHS. I personally would halve it. I would zero it myself. Now, I'm doing a little plug here for British Heart Foundation. There's a couple of reasons for that. They do a lot of work on preventing heart diseases, prevention of heart and circulatory diseases. That will also have a positive impact on obesity. It will also have a positive impact on diabetes. Their aim is to improve the quality of people's lives. They do amazing research. A lot of universities across the UK. Examples for us are Barts Hospital, King's College. They do world-class research on heart diseases. And BHF fund that. And all the funding comes from people like you and I. I've been a fundraiser for British Heart Foundation for some years, and I'm aware of the things they do. I'm a spokesperson on heart issues for BHF. So I thought I'd do a couple of practical things. If somebody has a heart attack, how would you know? So the single biggest thing you would know is chest pain. They would get a severe chest pain as if they're having somebody stabbing them. They may feel like vomiting. They'll feel a bit dizzy. You'll see sweat. You'll see sweat on their forehead, their armpits, if you care to look. And they will also have a very shallow breath. They'll breathe very fast. Most important thing when you spot even one of these signs is called 999. If you can get a patient to a hospital who's had a heart attack within 1 hour, the chances of survival are over 80%. If it takes a long time, then the risk of death is much higher. We have specialist hospitals, again, same as stroke units around London, if they get around the world, actually around the UK, the quicker you get the person there, the better for them. Just as a sideline, there's a person who lives 2 streets up the road. He had a heart attack. He attended one of my training courses in the local surgery. He knew exactly what to do. When I saw him in a supermarket, he said, "You've saved my life because you told me what to do." What's a cardiac arrest? A cardiac arrest is when your heart stops working. The thing to remember is Dr. ABC. Check the cause of the reason why the person's had a cardiac arrest. Could be an execution by electric supply, high voltage supply. Also check if there's danger. Is he on the street? Because if you go and help somebody and put yourself in danger, that's not a good thing. Sorry, I forgot to mention one thing. If somebody's had a heart attack, whilst you're waiting for the ambulance, put them in this sitting position. It's called a W position. Check for response. Are they breathing? If they're not breathing, you immediately know that they've had a heart attack. Call the ambulance. As soon as you've called the ambulance, start CPR. Ideally, get some help, get them to call an ambulance, start CPR. If you've got access to a defibrillator, use the defibrillator and get them into a hospital for advanced care. Survival rate in the UK for cardiac arrest is only about 20%. In some countries, Canada, Northern Europe, it's as much as 50 to 60% because they train people at schools to do CPR. Stroke. How do you recognize a stroke? Their face will droop. So you'll see one of their lips is much lower. Their arm is weak. If you lift their arm, it'll just drop. They've got no energy. Normally the left, but check both arms. Their speech will be impaired. You won't be able to understand them. If you spot one of these, call 999. They'll tell them the person's having a stroke and they will take care of them. The other 2 are balance and blurred vision. So be fast. It used to be fast. It's still fast in the UK, but some countries use be fast. I'm almost finished at the 45-minute mark. Umesh, we're on time. BHF website, bhf.org.uk. Lots and lots of material available free of charge. They will post it to you. It's available online on things you can do. They could be local events, exercises you can perform. They give you tips on exercises, forming groups. There's a lot of material there. Use it. It's free of charge. That's me. If you need any help or advice on whether it's heart diseases, diabetes, obesity, exercise, do ask me. If I can help, I'll give you guidance. Thank you very much, Umesh.
Thank you, Sailesh. That was an excellent session and very informative. So we've got one question so far, and I'd like to ask you to talk about that for us. And the question really is, so in all this, what you have spoken, what is the role of the liver?
Explain, what do you mean by liver?
So,
or liver?
Yes.
Yeah. So the liver is basically a cleanser for us. So if we take drugs, if we take alcohol, if we take medication, all of those things, the liver will remove toxins out of your body. So if you have excessive drugs, excessive alcohol, then the liver will not perform the function of detoxing your body.
Okay. So follow-on question from the same person is, what does enlarged liver mean?
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
I'll research it and I'll come back to you.
That's fine.
Ask the person to just email to me.
Sure, I'll do that. In fact,
well, they're online, so
yes.
I'll just put my email address on.
Yeah, that'll be good. In fact, the person is Malik Sultan Jivani, and she's got a very interesting story. I wonder if she wants to come online and talk about it, because she's saying that her hand just dropped, went numb in seconds, and she called paramedics. It would be interesting to hear her story if she would like to come on and talk about it. Malik Sultan, just to let you know, she is in States. But she's not. She said she won't talk about it today. She cannot talk about it today. But that's fine. She is in States, quite early in the morning for her as well. But thank you for those questions, Malik Sultan. Appreciate that.
And thank you for joining.
Yes.
You're missing. What are you missing? You're missing the tennis. Any other questions? People are welcome to email me if they have any questions as well.
So if I think there's another question here, Sailesh, and again quite relevant. So with all these exercises and what we eat, everything, how does it work if someone's got a pacemaker?
Okay. The role of a pacemaker, incidentally, VHF have invested millions in getting the pacemaker right. People may have an irregular heartbeat. And what the pacemaker does is it regulates that heartbeat. So if you're exercising, then the key thing to monitor, people have to work within their limits. If they work to excess, you could easily have a heart attack. So an example of this is the Denmark player. The Denmark player had a heart attack on the football pitch just in the last 3-4 weeks. This is football. Now, he had a genetic condition and he was not aware he had a genetic condition, and he's recovering. So what he did was he overstrained his heart with an unknowing heart condition, maybe family history. The same thing happened maybe 20 years ago with a guy called Fedris Mugumba. He had a heart condition, he had a heart attack at Tottenham. He survived because of CPR and defibrillator for about 6 hours in total. So if you've got a heart condition, if you have a pacemaker, please get guidance on the limits of what you should do from an exercise perspective from your consultant. You shouldn't overdo. You shouldn't overdo anything. So I've seen people in the gym with a heart rate of 200 beats per minute. That's extremely high. It should really never be much more than double your normal heart rate. If it's more than double, you're working too hard.
I think ultimately your body will tell you when to stop as well, isn't it? I think you should listen to your body.
Yes, I agree with that. I agree.
Yeah. Any more questions? Anyone else?
So I'll take away the enlarged liver question and I'll write back.
That'll be good, and then we can post it out when I put the recording on my YouTube channel.
The question here is, I got treated for stroke. I'm doing better, thank you.
That's the same person, yes.
So yeah, that's a statement. Now, if if you do get a stroke, the sooner you act, I'm repeating what I've said, the better for it. The chances of recovery are very good. So it's very important for us to recover, to act quickly. It's actually very important for us to learn CPR. It's very important for us to learn how to do the recovery position. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that London Ambulance restart their CPR training. And if they do, then I'm hoping, Umesh, that we can start CPR training in this community.
That'll be really good, Sailesh. And in fact, do you know what? I think there's really a case for these to be taught as part of the curriculum as well. I think at schools we should try and see how it can be brought in.
I agree. I used to teach in schools.
Right.
But the funding, British Heart Foundation stopped the funding.
It's all about funding, isn't it? And then you've got to prioritize. Where is the money going to go?
Yeah.
And there is limited funds at the moment, as we know. So
yes. Yeah, but I think CPR training should be free.
Yeah.
And fingers crossed, I can I've trained. I've trained several. In fact, I've trained well over 1,000 people. But when the funding stopped, I had to stop the training.
Sure.
Including Oshwa Centre and Ekta Centre.
Right.
In the UK.
Okay. Let's see if there's anything else. So we've got another statement over here as well. It is so Vibhuti Shah mentions that it is mandatory for yoga teachers to have training every 3 years.
It's actually mandatory for all exercise professionals.
Right.
To at least the emergency first aid course, which is 1-day training course every 3 years.
Right.
So Vibhuti, you're quite right. Every 3 years. Even I'm a personal trainer and a yoga teacher, and I'm required to do one every 3 years.
Okay. Now this is interesting. Because again, from Malik Sultan Jivani in US, she says school teachers for school teachers it's mandatory as well, but not in this country.
Not in the UK.
Yeah.
Not in the UK, which is a shame.
That is. I would have thought again, if we can't teach that as part of the curriculum at the minimum, if the teachers are trained,
yeah,
I think that would be really, really good. Again, it's all down to funding, unfortunately, Sailesh.
Yes, it is. Yeah, Seattle is one of the safest places in the world to have a heart attack, because what they've done is they've actually installed, in Finland is another, they've actually installed defibrillator machines, and they've trained a lot of people, general public and people at school, CPR training. So if you ever want to have a heart attack, do it in Seattle. Or
better still, don't have a heart attack, right?
Heathrow Airport is one of the safest airports in the world.
Right.
Because it's got something like 180 defibrillators and quite a lot of trained people. So again, that's another. Not that I'm encouraging you to have a heart attack, but if you do, pick Seattle or Heathrow Airport.
Right. Okay. I think we are coming up to 3 o'clock, 5 to 3. I don't know if there's any other questions. Let me just check.
Okay, Umesh, let me thank everybody for joining.
Sure.
Thank you all for joining. My key messages for you for today is please, please, please manage your diet. Have colorful vegetables, all colors, red, green, blue, and also manage your exercise and manage your sleep. Those three things, good level of exercise, we've discussed 210 minutes, do some weight training, that'll keep your muscles and keep your bone density strong, and that will all help you. So thank you for joining. Have a good afternoon. And those who are watching football, enjoy the game this evening.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Sailesh, for that very informative session. Thank you to all the viewers, all the people who joined. Really do appreciate it. I know there's lots going on in terms of sports today. And good luck to England later on in the evening. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.